Drawing and painting, here we go. Week 5 of our remote situation of learning and teaching. I'm trying to come to you this morning with a project that you would absolutely be doing if you were at school and you can totally do from home. So a couple of quick announcements before I forget. Don't forget, if you are interested, that I'm hosting those Zoom lunchtime meetings from 12 to 1 every day. So far, it's been great. People have been coming and we've just been social and catching up. But it's also an opportunity if you have questions about anything work related, you could ask too. The second announcement is the Village of Spring Lake is hosting a mural contest. So, a mural is a painting that's usually quite large, usually on a building or a wall somewhere, and it's a project that they're hosting and commissioning for, meaning that it would be a paid project. So over the summer, if you're interested in getting paid to paint a mural on the side of the Seven Steps Up building, that is something that I put information up on Schoology and also on our Spring Lake High School Facebook page. And I would encourage you to take a look at it. The deadline is in May, just for your ideas, and it would be an awesome summer gig. So that is that. Let's talk about our project for this week. This is actually going to be something that takes this week and next week, so your deadline is not until next week. But don't put it off, because if you were coming to class every morning or afternoon and working on this for 72 minutes a day, it would take you that long. So it's something that should take you quite a bit of time. But if you start now, you can kind of chip away at it daily. So we're going to look at ink drawing. So using ink to draw. And with that comes obviously contrast, because black and white has the maximum amount of contrast. And pattern work is going to be something that we include in this project as well. My goodness, please clicking things. Here are a few artists that I follow or have kind of seen out there in the social media worlds that I think could be really cool for you guys to get inspiration from for this project. Rune Christensen is a Danish artist, and the work is kind of weird and cool and mysterious. Maybe because there's eyes included, but the pattern work is what I was thinking of when I saw this, and I thought, oh, that would connect to my ink drawing project. So take a look at that if you're interested. The other one is this artist I follow on Instagram. I won't try to say her name, but you totally can. And her ink drawings are just beautiful and earthy, and sometimes so much so that she actually draws on wood, which I think is really beautiful. But these ink drawings, I love her use of pattern. I like her subject matter because I love the outdoors, and I think that they're gorgeous. Let's go back. I got to get this one that's tucked under there. See if it's gonna, there we go. Here's another ink artist that uses a lot of pattern work, and she hides a lot of eyes in her work, like repetitiously, which is like if you look at the sky in this one, which is kind of interesting. And she's a little odd as well. I would say all of these artists are quirky in their own way, but that's somebody that I follow on Instagram. So if you want to take a look at her work, Daria, pretty good stuff. All right, let's go back to this. If we were talking about somebody in proper art history who goes back to, actually he was born in 1471 and he's German, we would talk about this guy. His name is Albrecht Dürer, and you can see on the left of his head he has this insignia or a signature, and if you look at his work you always find that as his signature. It's an A and a D for his initials. So Albrecht Dürer, D-U-R-E-R. And really, he is the master of line work. If you just look at this line work, it's absolutely incredible. And I would say the dude was born in 1471, but he still holds I think the honor of being the line work master. I just showed you this detail so you could see how incredible his line work was, and also get a close-up of his signature, the A and the D again. So I would guess that this is a work that he did in 1513. That would make sense. So a lot of times he would hide those insignias in his work. Some of his work they weren't drawings necessarily, they were etchings. And so etching is where you're carving something into a substrate. So here's a tool you can see, and this looks like a copper plate. So you scratch your image into the plate, and then you roll ink on it to print it. So it actually prints the opposite, because whatever you leave raised, excuse me, is what gathers the ink. So this is actually a woodcut, and Albrecht Dürer did do woodcuts as well. He was a painter, and this is how you would print something like that. These are obviously not his work, but I wanted you to see what the process looked like. This is his work. Obviously, you can see his signature on the bottom. And I just wanted you to appreciate the master of line. Here's another piece on the left with a detail on the right. So he is creating value through the use of line. Sometimes we call that cross-hatching. And cross-hatching is making lines and crisscrossing them so that you get darker value. So you can see all of his value here is created in line work. He's not shading anything the way you do with graphite. He's using ink and building up his lines to get darkness. It's incredible. It really is. Look at the folds and in that angel's dress, and it's just amazing. Here's another detail, just because I think it's phenomenal. And like I said, it's totally stood the test of time. If you think about him being alive in the end of, the 1400s, 1500s, and people still look to his work as the guy who really mastered line work and pattern. That's incredible. Okay, here's something that is not, I would say, is not fine art necessarily, but also is an example of line work. I'll turn the volume down a little bit because I'll probably talk over it. But Zentangle, something you may have heard of. It is a style of art currently that incorporates pattern. And so this video in particular is of somebody who created squares, and then they're going to go in and show you, look at how many patterns you can do when it comes to Zentangle. There's so many ways to do pattern work and ink work. So there's a lot out there if you're looking for inspiration for this project on just really straightforward work with pattern. I would look up Zentangle. I'm not sure where to file Zentangle in the art world. Sometimes I feel like it's a little bit kitschy and crafty, but some people do some beautiful work with pattern, and I'm just not sure in my own mind where to put it. It's kind of in the same vein for me as like the adult coloring books, to be honest. But these, I'm not gonna lie, these videos are pretty mesmerizing and it's fun to watch. So there's lots of that there. Okay, in your kit that I gave you, the brown bag that you picked up last week, there should be a pen that looks just like this. And the pen has black ink in it on purpose. It also is clear on purpose because I want you to be able to see the ink in your drawing or in your pen. Because the goal for this project is for you to use all of the ink in this pen on a drawing. So you're going to use this pen, and you're going to use one of those pieces of Bristol board that I gave you, the bigger, heavier stack white paper. Take one of those. You can either use the rectangle that it is, or if you want to cut it down. When we do this project at school, I usually cut squares. So I love the way squares look. So if you wanted to trim your paper down to be more of a square, you absolutely could. Or if you want to cut it into a shape, circle, anything, you most definitely can. My only well, I shouldn't say my only requirement because we're going to go over that, but the major requirement for this one, you guys, is that you use all the ink in the pen. Why? Because I found that when I do this project and you have that goal set forward for you, you go way further in your drawings and you make magnificent ink drawings that if I said just go do an ink drawing, you would never push yourself that hard to go to that extent. And I think art, a lot of great art takes a lot of time. So will this take time? Yes, I'm giving you this week and next week to do it because of that. But here are some of the rules of the game. You must use all the ink in the pen. Don't lose this pen, you guys. Guard it with your life for the next couple of weeks, because if you lose it, you're going to have to get another one and then use all the ink in that pen. Nobody wants to do that. Your ink must be used on only one side of your paper. So I would prefer if you did not flip the paper over and just scribble to get all the ink out on the back. You can't open your pen and dump the ink out to get rid of it. You can't use ink in your sketchbook to get rid of it. I really want you to push yourself to use all the ink on your drawing. You must draw something amazing, number 5. And I would encourage you to incorporate some of that pattern work or repetition that we were talking about somewhere in your drawing. So that should be easy. There's going to be a lot of areas that you're going to want to keep straight black somehow because you want to use that ink up, but there's also going to be some areas hopefully where you use some contrast and leave it light and do some delicate line work and pattern work as well. It does not have to be representational, meaning it doesn't have to be a rhinoceros or a ballet dancer or something that you can give a name to because it represents something. It could be abstract, which is the opposite of representational. So it could be just design and pattern work and we don't really know what it is. It's an abstract piece. So you'll have to decide which route you want to take for that. But that's your project for this week and next week. I know it's a challenge. I think it's been well received by students in the past. I'll show you a few examples from second try of students at Spring Lake who did this project. And this was something I just came up with a couple years ago, and I love the results. I think mostly because the requirement is to use all the ink, that you guys go hard because you have to. And I found that with students, if I ask you to rise, you totally will. So I hope that you put something really beautiful together and that you enjoy it. I will tell you, as far as technique goes, if you're finding that the ink is smearing, and that's a craftsmanship issue, right? Put a piece of paper or a tissue under your hand, when the hand that you're drawing with, so that there's a layer between your hand and your drawing so that you're not smearing with that hand as you're drawing. So just a piece of computer paper or sketchbook paper or a Kleenex, a napkin, anything like that could go under your hand as you're drawing. Can you start with pencil and then go over it with ink? You can, but you're definitely going to want to erase that pencil mark so that you can't see it when you're done. So if you do that, make sure that it's so light that you can erase it away and no one will ever know that you did it. It's going to be a little tricky with ink to erase pencil because sometimes that eraser will smear the ink around. So I would be very careful if you do that. It might be a better idea to start in your sketchbook and sketch some ideas out before you hit it on your paper. I gave you 3 pieces of Bristol board and we will be using all 3 of them. So try to make it so that you don't have to start over a bunch of times. But if you do and you need more of that, I can get it to you. All right. If you have questions, I'm here for you. I miss you guys. I hope everything is well. And I hope that you do some beautiful drawings. I'll talk to you soon.